Yep. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Heart Center Tarot. As always, my name is Marina, and I will be your guide for this portion of the journey. And welcome back, Diana Boles. Hello, Diana.
Hi, Marina, and everybody, all my tribal dancers out there.
Perfect. And this is part 2 of the show that we did on the 14th of December, comparing the astrology and the events of 1945 to 2025 and so on. And yeah, we're going to take a little deeper dive into things. And since Diana is the one that has all the information, I'm just going to sit back and turn it over to her and say, there you go. All I do is facilitate.
There you go. I'll tell you what, it's a good thing I like rabbit holes. I would have been jumping down them. If you hadn't have given me the topic, I wouldn't have done this, but you did. And so that also involves all my guides. And I have to start with Merlin and also the three wise men.
Yes.
Now, when we last met, I went through everything the normal way, the longer process, the planets and what they had in common to each other and positions and just how all that stuff lined up to see what were their similarities, where were their turn on, turn off factors, what kind of personalities, who's a born leader, who's a wannabe, et cetera, et cetera. Yes. Who's the I could be a contender, I should have been a contender.
Yes.
Right? And it was complicated. So anybody with troubles there, I don't blame you because it was complicated. We were talking about 4 people. So of course, I start thinking about how am I going to go about this a long time before we really get to this day.
Yes.
So it was about 4:00 in the morning on I'm going to say 4:00, December 25th. That's Christmas morning.
Yes.
Now, I had been out with Merlin. This was an extremely lucid dream at 4:00 in the morning. This was not my regular nighttime deep sleep dreams, right?
Yeah.
And so Merlin has this capsule, and it's like the crystal, it's like his crystal house. This is all glass, but it's thick. It's hard to see through this, but there's this forward clear glass where you can see out and see constellations and enjoy the ride. So he had taken me out there, right? And we were racing through space in Merlin's capsule. And then we landed on this really strange looking spaceship. It was pretty large. I've seen bigger, but this was very large. And this hatch opened up. A Bombay door opened up there, and we entered through that. Sorry, it's hard to get it straight when you can't see. Now, when we got there, inside, who did I meet up with? But, oh, for goodness sakes. I turned the camera upside down because this usually doesn't happen when I do that. But here we go. It was Balthasar, Caspar, Melchior, and Antaban. Now, Antaban is the 4th wise man. He was not present at the birth. He was present at the crucifixion. What had happened to him while he was on his way was that everything that he came in contact with needed help, and he stopped to give help, and he gave most of his wealth away, so he didn't have what he needed to get to the birth, but he was at the crucifixion. And he did speak to Yeshua at that time. Now, this, of course, is a story by Van Dyke that was published 18, I can't remember the exact year, in the late 1800s. But there is some truth to this legend of there having been a fourth wise man that couldn't ever meet up in the places they were supposed to meet. So what they did was pull all of these charts out. And what they were showing me was a sextile symbol, which is, they were showing that as clusters of stars or fixed stars, and to be looking for the oppositions to that. Don't worry about the squares. Don't worry about the trines. They're just going bing, bing. Do it this way.
Yeah.
And so what that gives us by doing it that way, we have 4 fixed stars that astrologers go to. And it is Aldebaran, which is at 9 degrees of Gemini. And that is considered the silver portal. And it's also where souls come in to experience life on Earth. And directly across from there at 9 degrees of Sagittarius is Antares. And Antares is where souls leave, where souls go to rest. So that is the only one where there is a direct opposition. But in the chart, we have direct oppositions between the North Node and the South Node that everybody lives with. We also have the vertex and the anti-vertex, which everybody lives with. The North Node is how we go forward. The South Node is what we have to let go of in order to make that journey. The vertex is about doors and opening and closing, which essentially is the same thing, but the vertex moves about 7 degrees a day, 7 to 10 degrees a day.
Wow.
So the North Node takes 18 months to go through a sign. So those two are important there's the first direct opposition that they were showing me. Then there's Regulus, which is at 0 degrees of Virgo. And Regulus is the star of kings, the star of royalty, the star of leadership. So to look for that and what was in opposition to that. And then also they wanted me to look for Fomalhaut. And Fomalhaut is at 4 degrees of Libra. I'm sorry, 4 degrees of Pisces. And Fomalhaut is the return of the light when everything has cleared. And this is the beacon. So I went through all these charts to find those 4 things, but that wasn't the only thing that they wanted me to find. The galactic center, which again is going to take us to Sagittarius at 27 degrees. Now, also understand that all of these pinpoint degrees, they have orbs. So, we have an orb of, let's say, 5 degrees on either side of some of these that we can work with. So there's the galactic center at 27, and then there is the great attractor at 12 degrees, also in Sagittarius. So we have that 9 degree of Sagittarius where you're checking out. We have the 12 degrees is the great attractor. Well, that is a cluster of stars it just pulls you in. And the closer you are to these places, the stronger their influence upon things, okay? And then the galactic center, of course. So then we have the Shapley attractor. The Shapley attractor is at 0 degrees of Scorpio. Now, between 0 degrees of Virgo and 0 degrees of Scorpio, that's 30 degrees. So these two kind of have something in common. They're parallel. They can see each other. They work in tandem. They work as bookends. So that Shapley attractor is about, it's a great cluster. It's a massive cluster, as a matter of fact, of galaxies, and it's about the destiny, and it's also heavily what's the word? What's the word? But there's a big gravitational pull.
Oh, okay.
And people, some people, astronomers, astrologers are talking about, you know, the ones who want to scare you are saying, well, we're going to get sucked into the Shapley.
Yeah.
But we're not, because the universe is expanding. So as it expands, so does the distance between their ability to pull us in. The degree of where they are isn't, but the space between is, because there's an expansion going on in all directions at all time. That great attractor at 12 degrees of Sagittarius, it's a focal point and of the group of 100,000 nearby galaxies, but that's the focal point. So this is also complicated, but that's the focal point of these places. And what's near to that 12 degrees is that 9 degrees of bye-bye.
Yeah.
And then you have the supergalactic center at 2 degrees of Libra. Now we have Virgo and Libra and Scorpio, right?
Yeah. 3, 2, 2. Yeah.
Yeah. Chung, chung. I'm sorry, I misspoke. I said 30 degrees. I meant to say 60 degrees. So they're still working in a parallel and they can still see each other.
Yeah.
And that's a sextile. That's a semi-trine, half a trine. So those things are working together. You can stick a pin in it if you can remember it. But that's where we're going today, because that's what Merlin and the boys told me to do. Kind of like Waylon and Willie and the boys.
Yeah, and the boys, yes.
Right? Okay.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
So the first thing I thought we could do is take a look at the 3 deaths. One of our biggest questions about this is, did they beam me up, Scotty? You know, we had the body for 2 of them, but the only one whose body was witnessed in its demise is Mussolini.
Yes.
And nobody can testify to Hitler. And those who can testify to FDR, well, you know, the doctors were present, but who of the public was present? Mm-hmm. Nobody that wasn't already sworn to secrecy. As I said before, many, many people had no idea the man was crippled his whole adult life, because he became accosted with polio 28, 34, something like that. He wasn't that old yet. And he was a good swimmer. And that's kind of what made him understand something was going on, was his inability to be able to swim. So when I looked for Aldebaran in the 3 charts together, I just did them all in a circle with FDR in the center, because we know that of these 3, he was the good guy in the group comparatively. I didn't do Hirohito because he didn't die at the same time.
Yes.
Thank you. 39. Okay. And plus he lived to 1989. He had redemption, and we did compare him to the mouse that roared. And quite honestly, I believe more than a parody, that's exactly what Hirohito was thinking. We'll get their help. And they did, because the USA wrote their constitution for them.
Yes.
So Aldebaran, though it's at 9 degrees on the day they die, Aldebaran is at 9 degrees. Now, Aldebaran is where souls come in. So if something new is coming in, what's it to be?
Yeah.
Right? who's going to follow them? And if we think about the time frame of DT's birth, that's a possibility. June 17th, 1946, 1 year later.
Yes.
1 year and 2 months later.
Yes.
So Hitler died on the 30th of April.
30th of April.
Mussolini died on the 28th of April. And FDR died on the 12th of April.
Well, yeah.
So Aldebaran's 9 degrees, and Mussolini has Uranus and Estrella at 11 degrees. That's definitely within orb. And what could we consider coming in, even if it's just the beam of light from angels, for all of this to happen? That's what was coming in. So his are both at 11 degrees. Then we look at, I'm sorry, that was Hitler's. That's the last one. When we look at Mussolini's, he's got Estrella at 10 degrees rather than 11, but his Uranus is also at 11. They're only 2 days apart.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's like, okay, we're done with this. We've had enough of this baloney. We're coming to get you. So the souls are now charged with new energy because this is the silver portal. So the silver light is coming through to wake the souls and people up. And then when we look at FDR, his Estrella is because it was so much earlier in the month, his Estrella is at 3 degrees of Gemini. But I can't help but think of Tesla's code, 369. It counts because his Uranus is at 10 degrees. So that puts that Aldebaran in between the two, attracting them, pulling them together. And across from that, when we look at the Sagittarius at 9 degrees, we have Hitler with his moon on the super attractor. Well, those two are within orb of each other just to begin with, right?
Yes.
So Antares is already there pulling the soul out. Mussolini had his vertex there, the place where doors open and close. That's getting pulled out. His is at 21 degrees, so he's sitting on the galactic center. But that means everything has just gone over that already. He's, he's been there, right? And then we also have FDR with his vertex there. It's funny, even their times of birth.
Yes.
Around the world, there are different times of birth and different dates, still so close to each other that the big guys are certainly still in the same signs, the slow movers, the goal setters. So his vertex is at 5 degrees of Sagittarius. And there we are again, back at souls leaving. Yeah. So because that is the opposition of the light coming in and the light going out, I would say that is the first checkout point for them to look at. Did they beam me up? Yep. However you want to think about it, be it a spaceship or just St. Peter at the pearly gates. However you want to think about that, for sure. So then I looked at Farmahawk, and through all of their charts, there is nothing from here to there. Now, this is the place where the light comes in. This is a clear path, and it's in between, because Sag is over here, 2 signs away from Pisces, and Gemini is over here, 4 signs away, but there's a steady flow of light in between the reception into this T-square and then going out the other way. Yeah. So it's basically, it's a cattywampus, but it's like a Grand Cross, but cattywampus. So there's that. Then we have, what I thought was so interesting was all of them between Saturn, all of them are sitting at 6 degrees, except for FDR, his is at 5. But it must have been a slow moving time of it, because 5 degrees and 7 minutes for FDI, 6 degrees and 10 minutes for Mussolini, and then Hitler had 6 degrees and 30 minutes.
Wow.
And those are days apart, right? From till the 30th, from the 12th. So we have Saturn, and we have that lingering north node right there with them. And except on FDR's chart, he has Juno. Now, all of this is showing up in the 12th house because I'm using FDR as the leader, and I'm using his birth time.
Yeah.
So we're comparing him to those two to the best guy, right?
Yeah.
He has that 5 degrees, 12 degrees on Juno, which is about partnerships, and also it's conjunct his north node. Those guys have 6, 11, and 18, but it's the north node at 11 and Juno at 18. Because the nodes undulate. They kind of waver back and forth. That's why you'll hear astrologers say, well, are you using the mean node, or are you using the true node? The true node is the one where we don't, because these things can happen an hour at a time or 2 days at a time, but it's so inconsequential because it's like, and it goes right back, right? Yeah. So we don't pay attention to it as much. And then it's that 6 and 10 and 19 for Mussolini. So again, we're seeing that north node is, how do we go forward? No, you ain't going forward. You're being stopped. You're being stopped because that clear path between Fahrenheit and Regulus is like, there's nothing but light there, and you can't get past that light. Right?
Yes.
There's a higher source looking at it for you. So the Fahrenheit is empty, also is the Regulus. Now, other aspects could come into play, but I'm just looking at it from what were their rewards at the end of this, right? Mm-hmm. So for the supergalactic center, which is at 2 degrees of Libra, now he basically has a view over there to Regulus. And in between all of this, we have Hitler with Neptune at 4 degrees. That's pretty conjunct the supergalactic center at 2 degrees Libra. And then, of course, Mussolini has Neptune at 4 degrees that day with Chiron. Chiron's about healing. And in the 3rd house, these are the citizens receiving the healing from this, because they're no longer delusional. They know that they have been used and abused and hung out to dry alone through all of it. And Vesta is also in there. Vesta is not just about the hearth and home, but it's about what's inside your soul, this heart, this hearth. Yeah. And so when we get up to FDR's chart, well, Jupiter is there just like the others, but they're over in Virgo, but far enough away that it doesn't make sense to be affected by the strength of Regulus. Not that Regulus isn't throwing rays their direction. There's a lessening of the strength. So nobody's going to heaven, or so it looks.
Yeah.
So there's Jupiter, and then there is who was retrograde at the time. And then there's Pele Athena, who is the daughter of Jupiter. She was born out of his head. As smart as he is, she's even smarter. So now she's making the ultimate decisions and helping her dad. Then we got Chiron, the doctor of the universe who couldn't heal himself. The people are screaming, and they're going to make sure you don't heal yourself. And then that, when we get up to FDR's chart, the Chiron and Neptune are reversed because of the time between, the few days between each other's death. His is the farthest out. And so there was time for that to reverse. So the people were shocked by that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we know that so many people didn't know about his death, about his affliction.
Yes.
Then we have the
Absolutely.
Shapley attractor at 0 degrees of Scorpio. We got Mussolini with his black moon Lilith right on that.
Yeah.
And okay, 0 degrees of Scorpio. He's the only one who's like, eh, because he was screaming and hollering right up until the end, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
We also have Ceres there, who's about the harvest. Though she is in Libra, she's at 29 degrees. I need my little flashlight. Excuse me.
That's
Yeah.
all right. Well, while you do that, it gives me a chance to say hello to everyone who's joined us. Thank you, thank you, thank you for being here with us. I've been trying to kind of say hi to everyone in the comments as you've been coming in. But yes, thank you very much for being here. And I will remind you, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And once again, please take a look after the show. Make sure that you are actually subscribed to the channel, because once again, people are being lost by the wayside. And I know that I think I'm down about 12, 14 subscribers, which is, I mean, it's not unusual, but it is a good number. And people have also been messaging me and saying, hey, how come I'm not getting the notifications?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's usually a good sign.
That's it. That's usually a good sign. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. So please go back and double check and just make sure that you are in fact subscribed, and do that on the channel when you go to my channel and take it on there. So yeah, that's the end of Dorian says, happens to a lot. You have to do faves, then can't comment for a day. Oh, that's too bad. That's too bad. But there you go. That kind of explains that. So, all righty.
Getting too complicated, eh?
You know what? This is supposed to be simple, right?
Right.
This is supposed to be simple, not hard. But yeah, we have to look for it. So anyway, back.
Sure. Well, Ceres is an asteroid dwarf planet that is about harvest, and you get what you sow, right? Mussolini got what he sowed. Even Hitler, though we don't know for sure one way or the other what really happened, we do know he was gone.
Yes.
And had to move into the silence. Now, Ceres is retrograde at this time. So though they're in Libra at 29 degrees, but they have gone through that Shapley, right? And the, not Shapley, yes, sorry, the Shapley attractor. They have gone through the Shapley attractor, but FDR, at his passing on the 12th, it was at 3 degrees of Scorpio. So it was on the other side of the Shapley attractor. So the day he died, it hadn't quite gotten back into that Shapley, right?
Yeah.
So how much pull is there, right? What did I say that was? That was the whole of the what did I do with that paper? Oh my gosh. I'm losing stuff already. Yes,
That's a lot
it's
of
the
information.
gravitational pull.
Yeah.
Oh, because there's 100,000 nearby galaxies, right?
Yeah.
And that's the crazy thing. When we look at space, you can like, how can that be? How can that be? But it is. So we've already talked about Antares. Now that super attractor, we have Hitler with his moon right on it. Well, we did go through that part of it already. When we look at the galactic center, with Hitler, his galactic center is over at 1 degree of Capricorn. So now, it's already kind of getting out of the way. Because with that galactic center, it's 26, 27, 28. But to be over at 1 degree with something that moves by the minute, it can move 7 to 10 degrees a day, if I remember correctly. It definitely moves fast.
Yeah.
It moves with the hour, where the other moves with the day. Then we go back over to Formahot, and so that covers it. That is the way it was on the day that they died. So looking at these things, I would say that definitely there was intervention from above. There's no doubt about it. Why align them together? What was their soul contract? Where did that come into play for all of them? How did they know each other in past lives? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Because when we look at their birth charts, so much of the same things come into play. But the one who was left out of that same play was Hirohito, because he was born in 1901. These guys were all born in the 1800s.
Yeah.
FDR 1882, Hitler 1889, and Mussolini 1883. So that was that. So now what my guys told me when we were up in that spaceship was not only about that, but what we needed to do was to look at World War II and compare it to the War of 1812. And that War of 1812 is kind of what we're feeling right now.
Mm-hmm.
It went on our shores.
Yes.
It went on the other side of the world as well. It was in Canada. It was in Detroit.
Yes.
The Pontchartrain down there. That's what this is all about. The battle and the Chesapeake, and the battle on the Detroit River, and the battle in Maine, and the battle up and down the East Coast, and the battle in New Brunswick, and
yes, and in upper Canada, in what is today, Montreal, Toronto. There was a lot of things going on that were that you can see the parallels.
Yes.
With what is happening. Yeah.
Right. So if in the War of 1812 has got a whole lot to say. A whole lot.
Yes.
But what I did was print out a whole bunch of stuff, of course, because it's valid information. But there were a lot of preludes throughout the 1800s. It actually started showing signs in 1803. So 10 years prior. Well, think about what it was like 10 years ago.
Exactly.
When mouth started to mouth.
Yeah.
Okay. So then by the time we get to 1806, we got the Monroe Pinckney Treaty signed. And it's President Jefferson rejected it. Intended to stop British impressment into the U.S. because they were stopping goods from coming in from other countries. or allowing it to happen. Is that right? Impressment. Intended to stop British impressment. Yeah. And Jefferson wouldn't sign that. So in 1807, we had the Chesapeake Leopard Affair, and that is the military and diplomatic naval incident nearly triggering the war between Britain and the U.S. in 1807. And then orders to council came through in November of 1807. Britain launched economic warfare against France, straining relations with neutral countries. 1807, December, the Milan Decree, Napoleon ordered seizing the ships from neutral countries and trading with Britain. Here we go. They're already trying to start a world war then. Now, I should have looked up Waterloo because everybody says that was his demise, and it probably was, but he didn't do so hot here either, because as smart of a general as he would never listen to anyone else's opinion and make decisions based on the collective. From people who are standing in the fronts on these other lines who could tell him better what's really going on. He refused to listen. Who does that remind you of? Mm-hmm. Give me a Sharpie.
Yes.
So the Milan Decree, Napoleon ordering the seizing of ships. And then in 1807, December 22nd, the Embargo Act, U.S. Act in retaliation against British and French seizure of and impressment of U.S. merchant ships. See, that was Britain stopping us from going anywhere. And then in 1808, in April, the Bayonne Decree, France began seizing all U.S. ships in French ports. Then 1809, Non-Intercourse Act, U.S. Act, lifting embargoes on all shipping except those bound for British and French ports. Nobody could go there from here.
Yeah.
And then we have 1809, March 1st. Oh, that's it. Sorry. 1809, March 4th, President James Madison's inauguration. Now, this becomes where it starts getting really hot. There's an Erskine agreement at the same time. They don't exactly say what that is here, so I don't know what to make of it. On September 30th of that year, the treaty at Fort Wayne. Hello, there's a Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
And that treaty is about U.S. Shawnee tensions lead to Tecumseh's War. Now, Tecumseh, Michigan. Tecumseh, thank you. I just got big chills. He just entered the room. He had much to do with the writing of language, from Cherokee to Saginaw, Potawatomi, etc. And yes, there was a war. And then the Rambouillet Decree on March 23rd of 1810. France orders seizing all U.S. ships in French ports. Again, it's back on.
Yeah.
And May 1st, Macon's Bill number 2, U.S. Act intended to compel Britain and France to stop seizing ships. On August 5th, the Cador letter, which they don't specify what that is. February 2nd, its trade with the United Kingdom is closed. In March, fabricated letters caused diplomatic issues.
Oh, you mean like fake news?
Yeah. Hello? Right?
Yeah.
Fabricated letter. Now, mind you, it didn't travel as fast and they still were successful with it.
Yes.
Because don't forget, how did they get those letters out? They had to go through other ports to get them out to begin with, because they can't go out the French port.
Yeah.
Unless they're on a Japanese ship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the Henry letter, that's the also called the Henry Letters incident. Okay, then there's the Little Bell Affair on May 16th of 1811, military and diplomatic naval incident nearly triggering the war between Britain and the U.S. November 4th, the 12th United Congress is convened. 1811, November 7th, Battle of Tippecanoe, Tecumseh's Confederacy defeated. On April 4th of 1812, there's an American trade embargo. May 11th, United Kingdom Prime Minister Spencer Perceval is assassinated. Pro-war sentiment in Britain decreased, and efforts were made to reconcile with the United States. On June 1st of 1812, President James Madison's war message. Madison requested the U.S. Congress to declare war. On June 8th, Robert Jenkins became United Kingdom's prime minister, and he also brought some measures to avert war, but they were too little and they were too late because war had been declared and Madison did not get the message until after that act had happened. So news reached Congress too late. The impact of U.S. declaration of war on the United Kingdom started. And that is basically what is going on right now.
Mm-hmm.
We just have to look at it in this AI situation that we're in.
Yes.
And how fast lies travel now.
Yes.
And it's not just a rumor mill. We have the internet. We have screens like this, podcasts of all sorts in nature, all over, not just YouTube, but others as well, Podbean and everybody else that's out there.
Yes.
So when I put together a chart for the War of 1812 and the World War II, I used today's date, the Black Moon. So she's in the center square. And Black Moon is, not yet, 2 hours to go. But, I didn't change the time. I pushed this out for about 1 o'clock my time. Anyway, it's not going to make that big of a difference because we're still going to have the galactic center at 27 degrees. Now, yesterday, the moon went over the galactic center. So now we've got that moon, heading towards the new moon with itself in Capricorn.
Yeah.
Now, let's go back up here. We have, let me explain Vulcan. For today, Vulcan is very close. It's at 7 degrees.
Live long and prosper.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. It is the planet we cannot see because it travels so close to the sun. Vulcan is the blacksmith to the universe. He made the hammer of Thor. And when we say there's a hammer of Thor in the sky, there was one in the sky yesterday. I have to be quite honest, I haven't looked at the aspects for today in simple geometry, so I can just pick them out and talk about them.
Yeah.
Because I was down all these other rabbit holes. I'm going to have to refresh because at 7 o'clock I'm on with Val. So when we put that whole crowd of stuff together that's in Sagittarius, right? In Sagittarius right now, we have Mercury. By that noon time, we had Mercury in the 8th house. Now, as the rising sign changes, the houses twist.
Mm-hmm.
So he's probably more in the 7th house now. At any rate, he is at 18 degrees at noon, which is it actually is a good point to using noon on the 30th with these other two wars, using noon for their dates of start, is a good thing, because, you know, days before there's skirmishes, days after it
Yes.
ends, there's still people fighting because they don't know it's over with, right? So there was Mercury at 18 degrees, Neptune at 12 degrees for the War of 1812, and the Sun was at 15 degrees for World War II at this time. Then we also had Mercury at 7 degrees for World War II. But Neptune was in there all by himself, and there's the visions of grandeur going on in the little head of Napoleon. And I kind of feel sorry for the guy because, you know, he could have been a contender.
He could have been.
He could have been a contender.
Yep.
His death is very interesting because they did an autopsy. He had stomach troubles all his days. And when they opened him up, they found cancer and lots of ulcers, lots of ulcerations. But he was also, and I psychically believe he was administering it to himself because he knew his days were numbered. But I believe that he was giving himself arsenic to hasten this and putting it in his wine. He was on an island by himself. There was nobody for him to reach except his assistants. And they had no reason to not have a job.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Right? No Napoleon, I got no job. Who else is going to live in this castle, right?
Yes.
I mean, it's not like he died a pauper. He still was living high on the hog. Everybody around him died, and his favor was he still was alive, though isolated on what was that island? Alba?
Alba, yeah.
Yeah. So that was going on with all that Sagittarius stuff. Because in 1812, at 22 degrees, which is close to the galactic center, when we look at that, during World War II, we have Vulcan right on there. And that's like, you started this. Yeah. You think we can walk away now? The 8th, later on the day, on the 7th, but the news was out on the 8th, that war was declared. And then on the 11th, we're at war with the whole world, Germany and Italy as well. Yeah. Then when we look at the Shapley attractor, that's that 0 degrees of Scorpio. Well, for World War II, Juno is there. She's at 5 degrees, but let's think about this. Everybody she has except for Canada and Mexico, but anybody that she's going to ally with is on the other side of the world. So there is a distance between being able to fight together. You got to go over there because we don't want to bring it here. We're going over there. That's where the worst of the fighting was going on anyway.
Yes.
And then in the War of 1812, you have Uranus way far away from that 0 degrees of Scorpio because he's over at 20 degrees. But it's Uranus who likes to fight.
Mm-hmm.
And then also near the Shapley is Vesta in the War of 1812. Home. Again, an emotional home as well as the home that you live in. And if you think about all of what France was doing all around through there, through all of that, all of those years that I was talking about, these are the years that he's at his most active. The Battle of Trafalgar and all of that, you know, I mean, all of that. So that was him and his He killed my great cousin, Prince Poniatowski. And when he fell on the bridge in battle with Napoleon, Napoleon said, "He is the finest general that ever lived. I wished I had him with me."
Oh, wow. Wow.
So there's that. But that's just, they like to fight. But what he does have close to the Stapley is his Black Moon Lilith again. Black Moon Lilith in Scorpio for him. And it's like, I'm not listening to anybody. I'm only going to pay attention to me.
Yep. And I'm the only one who can help you.
Right. And right now we are in a flux with this Shapley. We have Vesta is at 28 degrees of Libra. Oh, I said that already. Sorry. That was, if I didn't make myself clear, that's where it is right now. And so, yes, we are all feeling this. What is this about? Where are we going to go now? You know, what's next? I went to take packages today, and one in particular to get to LA. It went up $20 from last week.
Mm-hmm.
And it's basically the same size box as the one I shipped last week. And he said in February you won't be able to. And I sent it UPS. He also told me that if I had sent it post office, it would have cost me $100. You're not even going to be able to send help.
Yeah.
Through the mail.
Mm-hmm.
Because now what? They want to push us to rely on Amazon, who's only going to milk us, or mail order, which everybody adds the price of their product and says free shipping.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that. So when we look at the supergalactic center at 2 degrees, there's really, well, in World War II, we had the vertex at 0 degrees of Libra. So that does come into play with that 2 degree. We were looking for balance because we were attacked first. We had done nothing. And then where we are right now is vertex for us now is at 9 degrees. We've got Black Moon Lilith at 6 degrees. We've got the South Node at 1 degree. Okay, let's think about this. What do we have to let go of in order to go forward?
Mm-hmm.
Go buy a bunch of peas and beans right now. Buy a bunch of root vegetables. I hope you saved your seeds from anything that you grew last year, because who can afford to buy seeds even? You get 6 seeds in a package and it was $1.25 at the dollar store. Can you imagine even walking into Walmart for that?
Yeah.
You know? And then we have Regulus. Well, Regulus is pretty much all by itself right now. There's no crowning glory here. But during the War of 1812, we had the North Node at 2 degrees of Virgo. And so that North Node knew that the way forward was just to keep on keeping on, that the battle wasn't over yet, that we still had to go up the hill, especially if we use noon as that rising sign, because that's what the North Node does. In your chart, the way I look at a personal chart or even an event chart, the rising sign is the best of the best you can be, your best abilities, your best thinking, being the best human you can be is at that rising sign. Your South Node is what you need to let go of, and the North Node is the vehicle you drive to help you get up the hill to where that ascension is. Because that's what we are here as human beings, to be our best selves. Yeah. So Regulus is basically alone for tonight and during World War II, but not during 1812. Then when we look at Aldebaran, now that's 9 degrees of Gemini, right? Right now, during World War II, there was nothing on either side or nothing close to it. But when we look at 1812, it was at 10 degrees. The sun was at 10 degrees of Gemini on the day it started.
Hmm.
When we look at today, we have Sedna at 0 degrees of Gemini, and she's still retrograde. We have Jupiter at 13 degrees of Gemini, and he's retrograde. Sedna's not going anywhere for a very long time. It's probably going to take her 2 years to get fully at 1.5 degrees. You know, she's a very slow mover.
Yeah.
But that Jupiter, tidy as he is, at 13 degrees, he's already lighting up that Aldebaran. And he's going to go there, and then he's going to go over it again. So this ain't over till the fat lady sings, and that's the truth.
Yeah.
Because, you know, absolutely. Right? And we have to look at this as at a time. Also, looking at Sedna. Sedna is about sacrifice and adaptation. Her father was sacrificing her every step of the way, and at the end, he cut off her hands. Some of the legends say he cut off her feet as well. She could die, or she could become the queen of the ocean, and that's what she did. So now, while we're going through this stalemate, there was a lot of news today, and if you haven't caught up with it, just check up on Popak on Midas Touch. He's got a lot to say. Some of it was, well, it was definitely worth agreeing with by my standard, but the point is that it is still, I couldn't even get my pendulum to say yes or no. It was the 11th hour. It just kept going to the 11th hour. Got to wait till the 11th hour. We're not going to know nothing till the 11th hour. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's what you say. And Formahat. Now, Formahat, we really have nothing close to that, because Saturn's at 14 degrees, Neptune's at 27 degrees, and then we're into Aquarius. And Aquarius, what do we got? We got Pluto at 1 degree, never again to go back to 0 degrees for another 250 years. Yay!
Yeah.
Never again to step into Capricorn while in our life, unless all parts are replaceable by then. But it was, so there's, you could say that the South Node during the War of 1812 definitely came into play. And Chiron. So the War of 1812, Chiron is now what? This is the ego, the wounded ego of its leader. And the South Node couldn't let it go. In his chart, in Napoleon's chart, Estrella is a big player. So just looking at all of that on those things, those are similarities that they're planets that merge together, that get along, that understand each other, and they're in a straight line from World War II to War 1812, and where we are now on the eve of destruction. No, we're on the eve of 2025. I could just hear Eric Burden singing.
Yes.
Or was it Eric Burden? It wasn't Eric Burden. It was somebody else. Anyway, so that's that. Now, Napoleon's interesting chart. God, his galactic center at 29 degrees, well, it had his North Node at 22 degrees. And it had his Xena, the warrior goddess.
Yeah.
It had that at 0 degrees of Capricorn. So 0 degrees, it's a powerful place, but so is an infant when it's first born.
Yes.
It's powerful. It cries, you go run it. You answer its every little whim for the first month at least.
Yes.
And then you're stuck because you're going to be answering a lot of whims from that point forward, right? So that Xena of his definitely has come into play there. in his Estrella is at 9 degrees of Capricorn. Well, that makes that visible and parallel to the 9 degrees of not Forma, Antares, the one in Sagittarius, that 9 degrees in Sagittarius.
Mm-hmm.
So this is going to be his exit point. And it does show up in his chart. Then at the Shapley attractor, he's really got nothing except to look across that. And even still, Neptune's too far away, but Neptune is in Taurus at 11 degrees. So it had gone over that, but Neptune's pretty slow moving. So his mother wasn't even in labor yet. Right?
Yeah.
The supergalactic center is empty. There's a whole, like alleyway through there. His rising sign, stupid me. I missed this, sorry. His rising sign is on the Shapley attractor. So there's his running around through all those 100,000, yes. Trying to find where he belongs, pulling him down, making him stuck on himself. And he's a Leo, so he's stuck on himself.
Yeah.
It's just one of the lower qualities that go with all signs. And he's got that fixed Leo attitude, me, I, especially since he's got a Scorpio rising, which is fixed, me, I. That first house begins with your rising sign. Yeah. So, wow. How did I miss that? Oh, well. On from there.
Oh, well.
Right? The other thing I saw in his birth chart was he has Hygeia and Vesta. He's got Vesta and the South Node conjunct in Gemini at 22 degrees. And then he's got Hygeia just over the line at 3 degrees of Cancer. So that starts to put him in that, oh my God, I've got issues. I'm sick all the time. What's going on? And I just talked about his stomach issues was one of the reasons why I always had his hand inside his jacket, yes. Because he was pressing on the issues in his belly.
Yep.
And who does that remind you of? And then Estrella, I need to find Estrella because there it is at, that was it, the 9 degrees of Estrella. So that also gives him a window into Gemini, right?
Yeah.
And that is like a quincunx, always adjusting. And he always spoke from like he was on the pulpit.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Very much so. And that's again, that's another Leo trait is, the proverbial actor, the being on stage is look at me, pay attention to me. Look, right. Everyone is listening to me.
So after all of that, I had, okay, now we got to go look at Musky Toes because he has become such a player in all of this crap. And when I looked at his geometry, all I could think of was those old cartoons, where on the end of an accordion arm, there was a boxing glove.
Yes.
And they could direct the arm anywhere you want to go. That's all I could see. He's just a boxing glove. He's empty. He's got nothing. So I felt sorry for that. And I gave him all of his other landmarks. And okay, he's still a boxing glove.
Still, yeah.
Now he looks like Boxing Day, right? I mean, look at all of those grand crosses in the center there. Oh my God. But the guy still has no center. He's not, his Saturn is at 0 degrees of Gemini. And Aldebaran's at 9 degrees of Gemini. Well, that's pretty far away for Saturn. because Aldebaran's pretty far out there.
Mm-hmm.
But okay, if we take that into consideration, he don't know what he wants. It's Saturn in Gemini. I wouldn't
Yes.
want my Saturn's at 0 degrees of Virgo, but I'm glad it says Virgo because I wouldn't want it at 0 degrees of anything else, especially not to be at 0 degrees of Gemini. It's hard enough having a sun at 18 degrees.
Yeah.
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 And
It's kind of very, very ADHD toddler.
Yes.
Yeah. Everywhere.
And it's he's not even what do we call that? Obstinate, defiant, disorder. ODD.
Yes. Yeah.
But he does remind me of many of the 4 and 5-year-olds that I taught, because that was what I was there for. I was there to find the problem spots and to, if you don't do this now, if you don't get child find intervening for you now, you're going to have terrible time by the time 12-year-old comes.
Exactly.
And when you do it when they're young, you get trained on how to deal so that it doesn't trigger it. There's something misfiring and it cannot be helped. And yes, you can see it in a chart with Mars and Pluto, which is something about him, isn't it? I can't remember. One of them's got a Mars-Pluto conjunction that's a big... Mars is at 20 degrees of Aquarius, battle fatigue. Where's his Pluto? His Pluto's at 27 degrees of Virgo. So it's not even opposite, it's still too far apart. But 27 degrees of Virgo, that's a pretty mature Pluto, stubborn. Stubborn. Determined.
And Maureen D'Amico said, I need to have my birth chart done. You know what? That is a gift that if you give yourself the amount of information that you're going to learn about yourself is absolutely fantastic. So yeah, by all means, reach out to someone like Diana and say, let's get this done, because there is I'm a firm believer is that knowledge is never a waste of money or resources.
Right.
So, the more information that you have, even about yourself, even about knowing that, these are the things in my chart that I need to look out for. And forewarned is forearmed. So
even if you don't, I call it your blueprint chart. And I love doing blueprints charts because it's introducing you to what makes you you. Exactly. We can say we don't know ourselves, or we can say we do know ourselves, but you don't understand why you do some of this and some of that. Okay, your blueprint's going to show you why, because your blueprint doesn't change. It's this stuff out here that does. When you've got a handle on your blueprint, you begin to see all of that at play, and you begin to see relationships at play. Those that you have to walk on pins and needles with. And those that it doesn't matter if you wore lead boots, they're still going to be with you. The difference between a job situation and letting your hair down. Your rising sign is letting your hair down with your friends, your closest. Well, let me cry on your shoulder when you need to do that. You don't go to work and do that with your boss unless it's absolutely necessary to save your job, to take a leave of absence because you're going to battle cancer, or you're going to, you have a child that has a handicap and you need 3 months to get everything together. So those are the things that once you understand yours, you begin to see how it plays throughout the world.
Yes.
And everything moves. Nothing is constant. There is nothing constant. But the thing to remember is that it moves in a circle, in an orb, in many directions, but it's round and round and round again.
Yeah, absolutely. There's yeah, I think Innocent Potato is right, is that 45 is what you get when your child never hears no. Exactly.
Yes.
And there's sometimes as a parent, we have to recognize that the decisions that we make with our youngest children, that they start looking to us for guidance from day one. And we don't do them any favors when we abandon the role of parent and think that, well, I'm going to parent my child differently. I'm going to be their best friend. They got lots of friends. They don't need a best friend. They need a parent to guide them.
Right.
And you need a parent to show them that, you know what, your actions have consequences. There are things that decisions also have consequences. You're allowed to make mistakes, but that doesn't mean that I become blind to what it is that you're done. And I think that everything that you do is a work of art, and all your words are heaven sent. No,
Right.
no, we need to stop being your child's best friend and start being their parent. And then you can avoid things like a grown-up 45 who believes that everything they do is just phenomenally exceptional.
I love what Innocent Potato is. Are you my sister? Are you? I was taught by Eastern European nuns from Poland, but in Detroit at St. Casimir's. Love ship hunting at 45, and she even taught the same kind of preschool I did. I did, preschool, pre-K. I was that pre-K year where the kid couldn't go on, so they repeated the 4-year-old, but they came to me because I had a pre-K approach to it.
Yes.
With, science and all that other stuff. So, yeah, but I was in a very small school. 12 years of Catholic school. Naval officer, dad ran a tight ship. Think Baron von Trapp. Okay.
Oh, yes. Yeah. And that
German
was
ancestry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was a time when if one of my neighbors saw me doing something wrong and they stopped me and corrected me, the last thing that I would ever want to do is start crying and go home and say, Mrs. So-and-so was mean to me. She said, because I would get twice the punishment. Once for being disrespectful to Mrs. whoever it was that told me whatever she did, and then for doing what I had done in the first place. So, it was the being raised by a village that when an adult was correcting your behavior, you listened as if that was a parent correcting your behavior, because in essence, it was.
I can see the difference between me and my baby brother. My baby brother's only 8 years younger than me. That means he's in his 60s right now, 65, yeah.
Yes.
And there's a whole lot of difference between the way Doug and I were raised as compared to Greg. And I see it in him every single time. And now I'm having to be his mother at this age in order for him to get it through his head. And sometimes it doesn't stick because he turns right around and does it again.
Yes. Yeah. That is,
Yay.
yeah, that's the consequence of, oh well, no, he didn't mean to do that. It's,
Oh,
he didn't mean to lose that job, and it wasn't his fault, because there's, people around him just don't understand him, and he's a sensitive soul, and no,
buck up, bucko.
yeah,
So
that,
am I, and you're crushing mine. Out of here.
yes, yes, absolutely. That's, yeah, buckled, yeah. Buckle up, Buttercup, because yeah,
Yeah.
the world ain't fair, and nobody owes you shite. Nobody owes
Yes.
you anything.
Right?
So, yeah.
You're right, Dawn. And yes, innocent potato.
Yes.
I'm 75, so I get it.
Yeah.
Get it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And Maureen, email me.
Yeah.
It's oilpainter, OILPNTR at AOL.com.
Yep.
And I can do your chart for you if you're interested.
Yeah.
Or anybody else here for that matter as well.
Yes, by all means. By all means. Well, I'm starting to, I think that there's a lot more that you have that, yeah, this might require a third show.
Oh,
Kind of,
it could. I mean, look, it's not ending. I mean, we could
yes.
I could find a battle and compare it to everything that's going on.
Yes, but it's just, for me, more than anything else, it's the idea that if we do not learn from history, we are doomed to repeat it.
And that's the biggest, that brings, shucks, it's over there. I have a book. Richard Dreyfuss wrote it.
Mm.
He is a firm, stalwart believer in bringing back civics to the classroom.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
I wanted to bring this in and I forgot about it. Sorry. But he quotes Jefferson because we are not a democracy. We are a republic. And it is said in the first three words, we the people. We have tendencies of democracy, but we also have tendencies of socialism in which we have libraries, we have police stations, we have fire departments, we have public hospitals, we have public parks, we have public bathrooms.
Yes.
This is taking care of each other.
Yes.
We go by vote of majority, but we, the people, are a republic. And Jefferson had a lot to say about why he worried about calling it a democracy. So.
Yeah, there's, whenever we put a label on something, or we want everyone to believe that one thing is only known by this particular name, we do each other a disservice, because there's a lot of people who, but absolutely firmly believe that, yeah, I don't want the government involved in my life. I want the government out of my life. And if, when the government is involved, it's called socialism. It's like communism. Well, you pay your taxes, and the taxes that you pay are providing some of the road repair and the schools and all that. That's not democracy. That's socialism. That is putting all your pennies into one pot and saying, okay, this is how much money we have. This is what we need to do. And this is how we're going to share our resources so that everyone gets the benefit. It's just that a few people have made it sound like it is awful. It is horrible. It is, you don't want to live under communism or socialism. We have socialism here in Canada. Guess what, folks? We're not complaining.
Exactly.
We're
Exactly.
not complaining. I don't mind that I pay 5% GST, with, it's a generalized sales tax.
Yeah. Well, so
Because
do I. Actually, I
yes,
pay 6 cents on a dollar here.
yes, and I don't mind that, because it keeps my roads in good repair. It keeps schools in good repair. It provides for that free health care, that if I need to go see my doctor, I make a phone call and
Yeah.
say, are there any openings today? Yes, I can be there at 3 o'clock. Thank you very much. And I go see my doctor. And when we are finished doing whatever we need to do, I walk out. Nobody stops me and says, oh, by the way, this visit will cost you X number of dollars, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
If she gives me a prescription, the most that I will ever pay for that prescription is $25.
That's what we're trying to do here.
Yeah.
But, I
Yeah.
mean, today I don't have, somebody was asking me about looking. Rose Blue, was it you? Somebody was asking me. Yeah, 45's chart on January 3rd. I was going to look, but I don't have him on my phone. I have, I have an app, but they don't cross interact
Yes.
with each other. That way,
Yeah.
it's kind of a good thing. I can store more
Yeah.
stuff.
Yes.
Anyway, what was I saying? I forgot. Squirrel.
Well, yeah. Oh, welcome to my world.
Right?
Yes. Yeah. So, we need to refine what we believe
Oh,
things are. We absolutely need to have civics. You need to know exactly how your government runs, and exactly what makes it the the engine behind what it is that is moving it forward. Otherwise, you're liable to believe anything that anyone tells you,
exactly.
and people are not telling you the truth.
No, not at
They're
all.
telling you their version of the truth and history and what you want to believe. And that's why a lot of people are in the situation they are in today, where they have voted against their own self-interest
Yes.
because they believed someone without
Oh, and today
without checking.
this is what I was going to say. I believe the drop down came from Midas Touch. I was working, so I didn't go look for it. But today he was quoted as having said, well, prepare for a
Depression?
yes, thank you.
Yeah,
Not
and not
recession,
the mental kind.
depression.
Depression. Yeah. Yeah. You know what? That's what happens when you just blindly believe, when you give your power of discernment over to someone else, and you say, oh, that's too hard for me. I can't possibly understand all that. So I'm going to hand it over to you. You make the best decision for me.
Yeah.
And then you wake up one day and go, oh, yeah, that's no, that's not what I had in mind. That's not the way that I understood that to go.
Yeah. So
Sorry about your luck.
if it's just hard to think that it's going to happen.
Yes. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just hard to think. I just can't believe it.
Yeah.
Today when I dropped off those packages, I'm pretty friendly with the folks there because I like going to that little shop. And he said, just wait till February, and food and restaurants, and
Yes.
just wait, because the restaurants are going to be closing because nobody can afford to go out to eat,
Yeah.
because they got to put food in the refrigerator. You don't buy food every day unless you're single.
Yes. Yeah. There is. Yeah, I am still very optimistic about the future, but I think that this is a lesson that a lot of people had to learn. Number one, you're not special. Understand that you are not special. Number two, you're as special as the person next to you.
Right.
Right. So you were born with a brain. You need to use it. You need to utilize it. Otherwise, what happens is, yeah, you will give your power over to someone else. And someone else isn't going to make decisions based on what's best for you. They're going to make decisions based on what's best for them.
My dad used to say, use that head of yours for something better than just a hat holder.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So, all righty. Listen, we are at 1 hour, 25 minutes.
Wow. We did
I
some talking,
know.
girl.
I know, time flies. So I think that, yeah, with some of the other things that you had mentioned, I think we're probably going to need to do a part 3.
Okay.
Where we can carry on.
Carry on my wayward son.
That's
There'll be peace when you are done. Lay your weary head to rest. Don't you cry no more.
There we
Boom.
go. All right.
Da,
Boom.
da, 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 da.
Yeah. So you guys, you'll just have to you'll just have to check the community tab and find out when we'll do part 3. Clearly, it's going to be in 2025.
Yes, clearly.
Yes, but absolutely, this is worth looking into. This is worth having more information.
Oh, I just can't wait to see what happens on counting day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Counting day.
It's going to be interesting.
Thank you, Rose.
So, Diana, it has been a pleasure as always. And thank you to those of you that have stayed with us from beginning to now. And catch us for part 3. And
Jimmy's funeral.
Yes. No, I think that there's nothing in it for him. I don't know that that he is going to be there. I think that he might find something else to do on that day.
Well, he wasn't supposed to be at Notre Dame either, but they showed up and they gave him a front row seat. However, they did yank Mosquitoes and put him in the
back with the kids. Yeah,
with the kids at the kids' table.
Yes. Yeah. All right, all. Well, you take care, and we'll see you on part 3.
Acquaintance be forgot and never brought to mind. Should all acquaintance